Good afternoon. I hope that the sound is all right and everybody can hear us on both sides of the chambers. A warm welcome to the members of the Verkhovna Rada, the Parliament of the Ukraine. Many people in the Netherlands have been impressed by your bravery and your resilience. And therefore we are honored that you are taking time to meet with us in this deepest hours of time. And we have deep respect for the way in which you're standing up for the Ukrainian people via such dangerous circumstances. It goes without saying that we stand together with the people of Ukraine in these horrendous times of war. And thank you so much for your time and the invitation that you did for meeting us and giving us the opportunity to speak to you. And I would also like to welcome the members of our Dutch Parliament. I'm happy to see a large representation of committees of foreign and European affairs present. And a warm welcome to everybody following this meeting, also online as well. And of course, I want to give you the floor. But before I do that, I will give you a few notices from our side on a practical matter. There is a slight delay in our connection due to technical issues, and I'm very sorry for that. Also, I would kindly like to ask everyone who is dialing in to mute themselves while not speaking, and that means we have to consider a little bit of time before talking and taking the floor. First of all, I will give the floor to the committee chairs of the Verkhovna Rada for introductions. Thereafter, I will give the floor to two members of parliament of our side to ask you any questions or make a statement. And then two members of parliament of your side, of the Ukrainian parliament, will take the floor as well. And I will ask the chair, Maresko, to do the moderation for the Ukrainian side. And of course, there are many things that we'd like to share with you too, but we foremost want to give you the opportunity to talk to us, to make your statements, to outspoke your concerns and take the floor. Mr. Alexandra Maresko, Chair of the Committee on Foreign Policy and Interparliamentary Cooperation, and Ms. Ivana Klimpouš-Sintantsi, Chair of the Committee of Ukraine's Integration into the EU. Can I give the floor to you?
With your permission, I will start, and because I am right now in the US and I will have to cut short my presence in this particular meeting, so I am very sorry for that. But let me first thank you, dear colleagues, for responding positively and quickly to our call.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I am interrupting you for a small amount of time because we had a technical errors on our side. Can I ask the technique to raise the volume a little bit? And our parliamentary bell was going, and so we couldn't hear you. Can I ask you to start over again? And I'm so sorry for the delay. Go ahead. Yes, you can. Thank you so much.
Well, my name is Ivana Klimpouš-Sintantsi. I am chairing the Committee of on Ukraine's integration into the EU. I'm very grateful to you colleagues for responding promptly and positively to our call on this direct communication with each other. I am going to apologize from the very beginning. I will have to be here only for 20 minutes because I am right now with a female delegation of Ukrainian MPs in the US, and so the schedules are changing so quickly in our life. We can plan maybe for one or 2 days. We are incapable of planning everything for a couple of weeks ahead in this particular moment, and I think that you understand. So we are trying to to reach out to all the communities and all the politicians who can help to engage right now with Ukraine and to support Ukraine. Our country is on fire. Our country is being bombed and shelled by prohibited weapons by the Russian Federation. They have been using cluster bombs. They have been using phosphorus and vacuum bombs against our civilian population. They are killing our kids. They are abducting our children. They are abducting our civilians, starting from local authorities and deporting them, forcefully deporting them to the territory of the Russian Federation. Our homes are being destroyed. Our people are dying every single hour, unfortunately, and all the narratives that Russian Federation is right now presenting to the world that they are going to concentrate exclusively on eastern territories of Ukraine have no confirmation by their actions. They are continuing bombardment all over the territory of Ukraine, and they are continuing their terrorist activities in Ukraine. That means that they want to erase us from the map of the world. That means that they just don't believe that we Ukrainians do have the right to choose our own path, that we Ukrainians do not have the right for freedom, for democracy, for European path, for our own vision of how we are operating as a state and as a nation. And that's probably is our only guilt in this war, that we want to choose our own path and we want to exist and we want to survive. This war is not war exclusively against Ukraine. This war is about values. This war is about principles. This war is about geopolitical order. So that's why we believe that Ukrainians should not stand alone in this war against Russian Federation. Because if Putin is not stopped here on our territory, he will spill over and he will escalate without no invitation, without any casus belli. He doesn't need any additional invitation to escalate. And he's been pointing this out very articulatively in his different speeches and in speeches of different representatives of the Russian regime. Unfortunately, we have to read this very clearly. And we are very grateful for all the support that we have been receiving up to date for Ukraine and for the changing policies of many countries, including in the EU, including in NATO, towards Ukraine. And we understand that tectonic changes are taking place right now in your policies as well towards Ukraine and towards Russian Federation. But unfortunately, this is still not enough for us to A, survive, and B, to win. There cannot be, a win-win situation in this war. There will be either one winner, Ukraine and the free world, or there will be Russian Federation taking over and then presenting its vision for the world order according to their understanding of Yalta II principles that they want to impose on the world. So we are kindly asking you as politicians and you as representative democracy to actually also listen to your societies that have been supportive of Ukrainians. And we are very grateful for that. The societies are cheering for Ukrainians that are showing bravery, that are showing courage, that are probably surprising the whole world, that both in Kremlin and unfortunately both in the West, everybody thought that we will not last more than a week. But we are holding and we will standing till the last bullet, until the last person. That has to be understood because this is our only way for survival. So we're asking you to continue your efforts and actually beat up your efforts in support of Ukraine. That means further sanctions on Russian Federation, that without loopholes, without their ability to avoid those sanctions. So it's about banking system, all banking system of Russian Federation being cut off SWIFT. It's about imposing real embargo on oil and gas and coal of Russian Federation, because since 24th of February, unfortunately, Europe has paid 21 billion euros to Russian Federation, thus while supporting Ukraine with one hand, actually sponsoring their terrorist activities on our land further with this money. A lot, we can send you these suggestions for additional sanctions, and if you would consider them, we would be grateful. We need, in order to protect our civilians, we need additional weapons. Moreover, we need serious weapons, such as planes, such as mid to long-range defense systems, artillery systems, tanks, and BTRs, and that will allow anything from nutrition to ammunition. And that is something that is of, if you wish, humanitarian aid for Ukraine in this particular moment. I'm sure that colleagues will be informing you on so many other serious challenges that we have right now. But one more that I want to mention. Ukrainians are, more than 10 million Ukrainians are finding themselves as displaced, internally displaced people and refugees at this particular moment. But most of them do not want to leave Ukraine. We want to ensure that there are safe places in Ukraine where they could stay and where the others could return after this war is over. So for us, it's also very, very important that humanitarian aid is being delivered directly to Ukraine, to those organizations that are capable of spreading it over Ukraine. Unfortunately, we are not satisfied with the actions of the UN agencies and with the ICRC that are receiving a lot of money from a lot of donations, but are not capable of opening real operations at this particular moment on our Ukrainian territory. And that means that we have to change our approach to how we are reaching out to Ukrainians with all those humanitarian efforts that you are also engaged in. Thank you so much. I will not take more of your time, and I am sorry that I will not be there to actually respond to your questions as we are starting additional meetings in Congress in like half an hour. Thank you so much.
Nog niet. Thank you very much. And of course, we understand that you have a very busy schedule. That's why we are so impressed with your resilience and maintaining work in these difficult times. I think I can give the next speaker the floor.
Dear colleagues, I'm the chairperson of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Ukrainian Parliament, the Verkhovna Rada. But most importantly, I am professor of international law. And to me, as a specialist on international law, the Netherlands is a very special country, as you know, because it's a country of the father of international law, Hugo Grotius, Hugo de Groot. So to me, I have the best associations related to your country. We have to be aware that Ukraine and the whole world right now is dealing with a true evil. In reality, we're dealing with a new kind of fascism. Russia represents this new kind of fascism because when you look at the atrocities committed on a regular basis by Russian troops, you'd be appalled to see what they are doing. They deliberately target civilians and civilian objects. Their goal is they're committing war crimes, crimes against humanity, rapes, and acts of genocide. Their goal is to destroy Ukraine as a nation. They, as Putin says, they basically deny our right to exist as a separate nation, as a separate people. Only for this month, around 200 children have been killed by Russian troops. And it means that each day Russia kills several children, several Ukrainian children. I also would like to pay attention to one of the myths which Putin propaganda is trying to spread. This is a myth that NATO or other countries should not interfere in what they call Russian-Ukrainian conflict. They are trying to blackmail you. They're trying to threaten you with nuclear weapons and so on. They want to promote fear in the minds of European politicians. Please don't believe it, because We are not afraid of this escalation. Ukrainian people heroically defend and even repel. Only yesterday we have liberated a town, Irpin, next to Kiev. So we rely on your support. What kind of support we expect from you? I will tell you very briefly. First of all, we need no-fly zone. We need no-fly zone at least to protect humanitarian corridors, which are being shelled by Russians deliberately to kill people who are trying to evacuate, for example, from Mariupol. We need such no-fly zone over nuclear power stations, which Russia can use to cause catastrophe of all European or global scale. Second thing which we need for you, I understand humanitarian help is very helpful, so to speak, but to survive and to defend ourselves and to defend the whole Europe, we need heavy weapons. We need tanks, we need jets. Please help us with this, because we need to survive and to defend what we call European values, in reality, the world of democracy. Third thing, which we also need from you, sanctions. Only tough, real sanctions can stop Russian war machine. They're very important. That's why I am appealing to you, to your businessmen, to withdraw from all the Dutch companies, firms should leave Russian market, because it can really help to stop Russian aggression. And finally, and here we can talk about peculiarities of your country, justice. We need to bring to justice all war criminals. You're familiar with war crimes, crimes against humanity, which can be committed by Russia. I mean MH17, of course, this tragic situation. We need to bring to justice all responsible, starting with Commander-in-Chief, Putin himself. He's a war criminal. He should be brought to justice. And all his subordinates, all his accomplices involved in crimes against humanity, war crimes and acts of genocide should be brought to justice all over the world. So we would like to rely on your help, understanding and support on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mereshko, for your clear statements. If you allow us, I would like to give two members of our parliament the floor for some statements, questions to your side. Mr. Brekelmans of the Liberal Party, can I give you the first chance for the floor?
Thank you very much. And first of all, it's good to see you again. It is a relief to see you in such, especially given that the circumstances are so hard and so harmful for you and for the people, for your people and the people that you care about. Let me start by saying that we very much and strongly condemn Russia's invasion of your country and the war crimes that are committed by Russia. And we stand in full support with your country. Let me address some of the points that you raised. From the very beginning of the war, my party, but also many others in our parliament, have been advocating for humanitarian support, for financial support, for delivering more weapons in order to help you in this battle. And I agree that we should continue with this support and that we should keep looking for ways to help you most effectively, also if that means delivering more heavy weaponry. Second, I think we should continue with putting pressure on Russia by looking for other ways to extend the sanction package that's already in place, but also by enforcing the sanctions that already have been imposed. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement there. And third, regarding international prosecution, I very much agree that we should use all legal ways in order to start holding the people accountable that are responsible for these crimes. I would also like to respond to one thing which I do not agree with, and that's with imposing a no-fly zone, because I think that would involve huge risk for an escalation of this conflict, and also a huge risk for more casualties that would, as a result, mostly affect your country and the people in your country that are already so much affected. And I think also, and then I will go into my question. Maybe this would also not be the right time for this escalation, because if you look at the latest news, there seems to be some small degree of progress on the diplomatic talks that are taking place. And I think it's an indication that there will be more high-level meetings, or a more high-level meeting has been announced in which the Minister of Foreign Affairs and maybe also your President will participate. And that's my question to you. How do you look at this latest news? Do you also see some progress? And do you think this will lead to something? Or I've seen some of you with some skeptical statements. Are you as skeptical as you were a couple of weeks ago?
Mr. Maresco.
Yes, I will try to quickly respond to your question, and then I will give the floor to my colleagues, to Lisa Yasko, because she has raised her hand. Regarding negotiations, we should understand that the result of peace settlement or result of these negotiations depends on the situation on the battleground. I'm a little bit skeptical, and I remain skeptical about these negotiations because I don't see ceasefire, first of all. To hold these negotiations in earnest, Russia should prove, Putin should prove that really want settlement within framework of international law, of course, and that they are not going to use it for propagandistic purposes only. And I have suspicion that Putin wants to create illusion of victory for his electorate, for his voters, so to speak. You know, that's why I'm a little bit skeptical, but maybe my colleagues will correct. And if you don't mind, I will give I will give the floor to Lisa Yasko and Ivana Klimpush-Tsensadze.
Could you give the floor to one minute, okay, because yes, I have to leave.
Yes, because Ivana Klimpush-Tsensadze, she's going to leave, and if you don't mind, we'll ask her. Yes, please.
Yes, please do.
Just very briefly, we, with Alexander, we represent different political parties. We have to understand that at this particular moment, Ukrainian society and Ukrainian politicum is united in our effort to win this war and to protect our country. So that's one important thing. And with regard to this negotiations, I am as skeptical as Alexander with regard to these negotiations. I think Putin is trying to buy time in this particular moment to regroup and to attack us with additional fearful attacks. So therefore, please do not be misled on the progress that is being announced from these negotiations. Negotiations with people who are who came to kill you, negotiations with people about peace, with those people who came to kill you are basically impossible as we know from the history. So at this particular point, we have the gun at our head and we are negotiating. How well you think these negotiations could go? So I think, again, Russia is trying to mislead the whole international community with this particular talks at this particular moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much and take care.
Thank you. Please Lisa Yasko. Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Dear friends and dear colleagues, I would probably start by saying about what do we think about negotiations and how hopeful we are. Well, personally, I wish I had a hope bigger than I do have right now. I just know that it's more than 1 month of war. And if Putin wanted to reach any deal at that moment, he would do it. But we understand that that's not about reaching a deal. It's about showing a very terrible approach on how he can be just killing people and showing his power around all the world, that he can allow himself to do whatever he wants. So we understand that so far the news that if there is a possible agreement that there will be less troops, Russian troops near Kyiv and Chernihiv, of course it's a great news. But whether it would be implemented, let's see. But we as Ukrainians, we really don't have illusions. And if we ask ordinary people, those who already lost their homes and separated from their families or lost even their family members or friends. I don't think any of these people would say that there is a hope that Russia can do something in a peaceful way at this stage. I'm very worried and concerned that Putin is very likely to put more troops and to put more escalation even more in the east and in the south. I'm very scared of that personally because we know that there is a risk that around 100,000 people who are currently surrounded in Mariupol, they can become real victims. And you know that there is almost no connection in Mariupol right now, no food, no water. And I'm very, I don't want to be diplomatic here. I want to be human here. First of all, I'm very scared about this all because I understand that Putin is not going to stop in the nearest future. Of course, we wanted, you know, when I was leaving my home on the first week, going to the west of Ukraine, leaving Kiev, I had a hope that I'll be back in a few days, but I'm not back. Moreover, in all Western cities, you hear sirenas and you hear lots of not safe things are happening as well. You know that 2 days ago there were airstrikes in Lutsk, in Lviv, even in Uzhhorod. There are sirenas every day. Actually, it wasn't like that even a week ago. It started to be stronger, especially during recent few days. So what I want to emphasize and what I'm trying to say at every possible meeting, that the main question is how to end this war. And if someone keeps thinking that not provoking Putin or not showing the military support of Ukraine is an option, I think you'll be disappointed to know that actually Putin cannot be provoked in this way because he invents the reasons to intervene, to attack, to kill people. He's not following any logic that can be understood by the common sense. And I don't think at this stage no one has illusions about that. But I'm asking you not to be naive. I understand that you have a privilege of living in a peaceful world, and we also had this privilege for some time until Putin invaded Ukraine, but we have no illusions about that. So it's very important that when we really see the evil, that we name it as evil and we target it to destroy this evil. There is no other way to make a deal with evil. Some deals, some negotiations are possible to solve very concrete things as humanitarian corridors, agreeing to evacuate more people. This is very much needed. But evil can be beaten right now only by real strength and force. And for that, we need military assistance. This is very important. And for us, it's also very important that on the way to the future peace, we also have your support as possible guarantors of our security in the future and our territorial integrity. So, of course, for us, it's very important that you support the whole unity of Ukraine, not only, let's say, parts of Ukraine. For us, there couldn't be any compromise on the territorial integrity at this moment at all, because we are losing people that are defending our land, defending Donbass, defending north, east, south, central Ukraine. There cannot be any compromises about that. So I'm just asking you, please, let's be more rational on how to end this war. as quickly as possible without postponing decisions. We need your fast and creative actions. As I believe you know what does mean the human rights, and we just need to be very united at this moment. A lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Jasko. Any furthermore statements, or can we give one of the other members of our parliament the floor? Mr. Chair?
Okay. Yes, of course, yes.
Thank you so much. Because of delay, it sometimes takes a while. Thank you, Ms. Jasko, for your clear statements, but also everyday life and the scares that people are going through. Can I give Mr. Hamburg the opportunity to ask you a question or raise a statement?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to all parliamentarians that found the time in these strenuous times to have this conversation with us. It's extremely appreciated. I cannot imagine the pressure you are working under, and I hope you know that the large majority of the Netherlands population is also very much in support of the Ukrainian cause, the independence and the integrity of your country, and very much opposing the aggression of Putin and the violence. My condolences to all Ukrainians, all Ukrainian families also that fell victim, or their family members fell victim to these, in most cases, we could even call them war crimes. The Netherlands definitely should continue military support. The Netherlands should definitely continue humanitarian support, as we have been doing so, and we clearly heard your call. There are currently also concerns about a new Russian strategy to divide Ukraine in an almost Korean or German scenario, as we have seen in the past, which would be a horrible scenario. So my question to you would be also, what could be done to prevent this from happening? Because I think this is one of the scares for the Ukrainian people, that there will be a sharp division between the two parts of the country, breaking the integrity and creating a scenario that might have repercussions for families being separated for years to come, and this will be a horrible situation. And my second question, because we're also speaking to parts of the committee member of the Ukrainian integration into the EU, what is your view upon EU candidate membership and the time path? Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, please.
Yes, maybe some of my colleagues would like to answer these questions. I'm ready, but maybe someone wants. Please, colleagues, raise the hand. I can see only when there is a hand raised. I don't see any. Well, I'll try quickly to respond, and maybe my colleagues will add something. Regarding EU membership, to us, it has always been strategic priority. It is enshrined in our constitution as a goal to join EU, because we belong to this European family. And most importantly, right now, to us, it is a security guarantee. Unfortunately, we cannot join NATO right now because of the position of some European states, like Germany, like France. But if we join EU, and we deserve it to do on a fast-track basis, it will give. I cannot imagine Putin attacking Ukraine if Ukraine was an EU member. You know, that's why it's important for our survival. Regarding division, yes, let's for a moment try to think in the way Putin is thinking. He needs to create illusion of victory. To do that, he needs to occupy further the territory or eastern part, to sort of to enlarge the territory which had already been occupied, I mean Donbass, and then to create illusion of victory. That's why he is trying to build North Korea. Basically, he's building North Korea in his own country, and he wants to extend this North Korea to the occupied territories. This is a dangerous thing. That's why we need to stop him, and we should do it with our common efforts. Sorry, maybe some of my colleagues would like something to add. I don't know. I cannot see. Maybe, I don't know, Bogdan Yeremenko, maybe, if he is connected. Or Salome Anatolievna? No, unfortunately, I don't see. Oh, sorry, then floor goes to you.
Thank you so much. Maybe some other members of your committee would like to address also or ask some questions if their connections is good enough. Otherwise, we'll ask you some questions. Is there any questions of the Ukrainian Parliament to our Parliament, or comments or statements?
Well, maybe Mr. Valentin Nalyvaichenko, maybe you would like to make a comment or ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Secretary for European Integration Committee in our Parliament. My name is Valentin Nalyvaichenko, and I was responsible in 2014 for international investigation of MI-17 downing and terrorist act committed by Putin and his regime against US citizens and Malaysians and other nations and people, passengers of the MI-17. And my brief comment on what we are talking about now is that I do think that we should and could join our efforts, I mean Netherlands and Ukraine, in further investigation of war crimes of Putin and his military in Ukraine, being committed or what they actually are planning to commit in nearest hours or days. That's why I think it's a good time for us together, both parliaments, to support and to envisage as much possibilities as we can to work for our prosecutors, to work for our lawyers, to work and to help victims of war crimes, and finally to get and institute the War Tribunal in Hague and actually bring those responsible to justice, as Mr. Mereshko and other my colleagues already mentioned. That's one thing. And another comment on the gentleman from the parliament, of your parliament, asked about the division of the country, like eastern part and other things. I'm sure that Putin's scenario in 2014 was to cut off from Ukraine Donetsk and Lugansk regions and Crimea. Now his plan initially, 33 days ago, was to invade and occupy Kyiv and the most part of our country, of Ukraine. Now, because of the unity of Ukrainian nation, because of the armed forces of Ukraine, because of volunteers and other people here in our country, we have destroyed this plan. But it's still plan B for Putin's troops in Ukraine, as to occupy the whole territories of Donetsk and Lugansk regions and try to keep occupied Mariupol and other cities of Ukraine in our southern part. By the way, talking on Mariupol and other martyr cities, we call them, I think we do have to find any way to support Greece and other countries, and maybe your country will join these international efforts to establish international humanitarian corridors to these already being destroyed cities, where really thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are dying, lack of supply, lack of food, lack of any medical assistance. I think if we'll initiate that international efforts, that might lead to very concrete and fast, we hope, relief and aid to Ukrainians under occupation in southern Ukraine, starting of Mariupol and other cities. Thank you, dear colleagues, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Nalyvaichenko. Sorry. I think you made a clear statement, maybe as a reaction from our side. Ms. Mulder, can I give you the floor?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and honourable members of the Ukrainian Parliament. To be able to have this digital meeting between our Parliament, it means a lot to us. The circumstances under which we meet today are, of course, devastating and horrifying. Putin started a war against your people, against your civilians. And it is Putin's war, and it's an illegal war. We thank you and your President Zelensky for the way that you are brave as a people. It inspires us all throughout Europe to defend what values that we share and that are very important to defend also. Your colleague Lesia Vasilenko, she took part in a special organized meeting last week during the IPU conference, and it was really impressing what she told us and all the parliamentarians there in the room. So the way that you reach out as parliamentarians is really important, I think, to share your views on what is going on in your country, because not every country in the world views it as a war, but some say it's more of a conflict. So during the meeting last week in the IPU, we said, no, it's a conflict, and we were very clear on this. And finally, the emergency item that got supported really condemned what is happening in your country, and we think that it's really important that everybody shares this view. Thank you for mentioning the MH17. I think it touches on all our hearts what happened in your country these years ago, and we have a common past in this, and we want to be able to have also justice done to the people that are the victims of what happened there. And we also want justice for all of the war victims at the moment that are being that are happening in your country. And our minister, he says he wants to have a database established for war crimes, and we think he should be working really hard on this issue to establish that all the proof is there when we want to bring these people to justice. We really want this. And I'm a bit concerned, as you are also, about the humanitarian assistance on the grounds in your country. I don't see a lot happening there, and we are having a debate with our minister this coming Thursday, and I think I'm not the only one raising this question on this coming Thursday. I think all of the colleagues here want to know what is happening and how things can be improved, because if we cannot help you on the ground, then it's really, really awful, and it's horrifying. So I think we want to encourage all the UN agencies to step up and raise their efforts to help your people on the ground. So this is what I wanted to speak about today. Thank you. And I have one question, Madam Chair, and that is which of the sanctions that you think might add to the list, and that can improve your situation as well.
Who of the parliamentarians can answer this question? Mr. Chair?
Lisa Yasko, if I'm not mistaken, she would like to,
I want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm. You would like to answer? Yes. Yeah.
No.
Well,
Chair, you proceed with the answer, I think.
Okay. So first of all, regarding humanitarian aid by international organizations, we had very sad experience with the International Red Cross. Our government and my colleagues had turned numerous times to International Red Cross to help to establish humanitarian corridors from Mariupol. They refused, unfortunately, and there was not much help. Another kind of thing which has caused some disappointment on our part was when Red Cross decided to establish their branch in the Russian territory, in Rostov-na-Donu city, in order to help Russia basically to commit war crime, deportation of Ukrainian citizens from the occupied territories into the territory of Russia. So this is just an example or illustration that unfortunately international organizations, even prominent organizations like International Red Cross, are not much help to us. As for sanctions, I firmly believe that we need total isolation of Russia. Total isolation, embargo on oil and gas. This is extremely important. We need to, all firms, all companies should withdraw from Russia. And only this total economic isolations with canceling all economic contracts can really help. Because sometimes the sanctions which are used, for example, SWIFT, to give you an example, turned out to be that we didn't have a total switching off of SWIFT. And it didn't concern, for example, Russian central bank. Sometimes these sanctions are used to avoid that. Well, I don't want to give examples of some countries, but to me, it's very disappointing. And I would like to give the floor to Mr. Valentin Nalyvaichenko, because he probably would like to answer these questions. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly on sanctions, what should be mentioned with you, dear colleagues. We think that altogether, European Union member states, Ukraine, of course, and the United States, Canada, Japan, and others, Australia, we need to strengthen sanctions on any and each military technology, any supply of any know-how, details, parts, or whatever, which Russia can or could use to produce more weapons, rockets, and other weaponry which Russia is using against our people and committing war crimes. This is the sector and sanctions, above all, to do now, here and now, to prohibit all know-hows and other deliveries, supplies related to any kind of weaponry for Russian armed forces. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Van Dijk, on our side.
Thank you very much. It's obvious that your country is in a terrible situation because of this war that Putin started, and I condemn it in the strongest terms. I would like to ask Mr. Nalyvaichenko, what is your response to the latest news about the negotiations? The news that the Russian army, if it's true, wants to diminish its actions around Kiev. And can you elaborate on your plan for international humanitarian corridors? How to do that?
First, the first response of Russia to regroup and a little bit decrease their troops, BTG they call it, battalion tactical groups around Kiev. The reason number one for that is because of our armed forces simply, let's say, sharply damaged them during last weeks. Heavily, it was heavily heavy battle around Kiev, but finally, so far, our armed forces simply forced these BTG to change their positions and being now regrouped to Belarus or to Russia. If you will ask me, is it for real? I do think that any time Putin will make an order to simply send another fresh troops with other weaponry, which are now, let's say, being replaced from all parts of Russia, even from the far east, from China and Japan borders to Ukraine. Can you imagine the crazy things happening? But this is happening. That's my first, let's say, estimation. The other thing on humanitarian aid, dear colleague, I think that we can now create a new, even in human history, thing with the international humanitarian corridors. We need to combine our efforts and really do this. I mentioned Greece, I mentioned other countries. I, with all respect, would like to mention Netherlands. Let's simply make it, let's simply do it as soon as we can, to make international initiative, to ask International Red Cross, other UN organizations, provide them with necessary equipment, medical, humanitarian, and other cargo, and try to send them, try to deploy them to Mariupol and other cities under the attack of Russian artillery and Russian troops. We, I think, could do this.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, can I give you some, the floor for some last remarks before we have to close this meeting?
Yes. If you don't mind, I would like to give the floor to Lisa Yasko. She will make also closing remarks, I think.
Of course.
Yes, please, Lisa Yasko.
Well, thank you very much. You know, you mentioned MH17, and I realized that I didn't mention it in my statement. It was a very tragic moment in our history when we saw that the Russians did this to you, and it happened on the territory of Ukraine, and it was very, very heavy for us. And I have some information that some Russian companies that even produce that weapon are actually hiding or have connection of the assets also with Netherlands. And it's a great concern for us that if we look at the sanctions that sanctions that you, your government imposed on Russia are actually quite light sanctions compared to what, for example, even Switzerland did. And for Switzerland, you understand that it's quite unique. So I wonder this is the question, and this is important for me to ask you, what can we done, and you as our foreign friends could help to make your government really to impose stronger sanctions? Because as my colleagues said, that only isolation, only stopping finance of committing real crimes by Russia will work. According to the information that we have, we know that lots of financial flows still go through the Netherlands, the Russian flows, and it's very concerning. Maybe you could introduce a stronger policy on that would really help us in that main question, how to end this war. We need to isolate Putin. So this is one of the main things I would say, and if you could answer it, we would really appreciate that.
Of course, Ms. Jasko. Ms. Piri, can I give the floor for answering this question? And after that, I will go back to Mr. Chair for his closing statements before I close the meeting. Mrs. Piri.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the colleagues in Ukraine. As said by everyone, we very much appreciate you taking the time under these difficult circumstances. And let me immediately not make my own statement, but go into answering your question. When it comes to the Parliament, I think we have been, in majority, very outspoken. When it comes to wanting to have very severe sanctions, of course, in the end, our government has to negotiate it within the EU and make sure to convince also the other 26 member states. And this Parliament only last week, for instance, also adopted a motion calling for oil boycotts, the boycott of Russian oil. I think the Parliament has always been outspoken, and we share your criticism. I think I can say that on behalf of a majority in this Parliament, we share your criticism when it comes to the enforcement of the sanctions. we are also not satisfied with seeing that not a lot of money has been confiscated when it comes to the dirty Russian money that is stored, of course, in various countries, including in the Netherlands. So as not all the colleagues can speak, I think, well, they will shout if I'm not saying something on behalf of them. But I really think this is a job that we have to do as Dutch Parliament to make sure that the sanctions that are in place are also being enforced at the national level. So we very much share your concerns there, and we take it up as our role to make sure that the government implies.
Thank you so much. Ms. Jesko, also to you, take care and stay safe. Mr. Chair, can I give you the floor for some last remarks?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for raising the issue regarding Russian assets and money, because only today our Prime Minister has said that the damage done by Russian aggression for this month is like $1 trillion. And I believe that Russian money in the West should be frozen, confiscated, and from this should be paid money compensations to the victims of this Russian aggression. And dear colleagues, I'm glad that we feel that we find understanding on your part about the situation in which we are right now. And we really want to count on your support and your help, because, you know, we are doing the common cause, we are achieving the common goal, which is to stop the aggressor. And we should do everything possible, because on our efforts as the legislators depend lives of women, children, civilians in Ukraine. And we should do everything what we can to stop the bloodshed and to save people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, members of the Ukraine Parliament. It was so good to have you today on this awful circumstances. And of course, we continue the developments in your country closely. We also have a debate, as mentioned, this Thursday about the situation in Ukraine. President Mr. Zelensky will address our parliament as well. And hereafter we, of course, debate with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, your statements and his statements to make sure that all your statements are being addressed at an appropriate way. And of course, I wish you strength and perseverance in the coming days, weeks and months. Please find us and reach out to us if we can help each other. Last October, I visited your beautiful country. I went to Kiev, and I hope that we all can visit your country very soon on normal circumstances, to see each other, to reach out to each other, and to feel free again, because that is what you want, that we want, that all of the international communities and countries want, because everybody wants to be free and deserves freeness. So I hope to see you soon in person. Keep safe, keep your strength, and hope to see you soon. Thank you so much for your time. And thereby I close this meeting, but not for the last time. We'll keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
En dan sluit ik hierbij de vergadering.